All right. Hold on. I've got here one more second. You haven't heard this music, guys. Chase the nation, breaking all expectations. We're worth nothing less than the best. All right. Gotta do the mature thing and start doing what we're supposed to be doing. But seriously, music is such a huge reliever of anxiety and stress. I encourage you guys to incorporate that into kind of your daily life. And that song was The Very Best by Francesca Battistelli, which is like the longest name ever. Good luck searching that one. So let's get started by going ahead and just pulling off the Band-Aid. We're not going to be talking about IPA. Really? We're not going to talk about tools. I'm not going to teach you about attrition. I'm not going to teach you about priority management. I'm about to bust up into your private life, and I hope you let me in. And here's how I know how to do that, because I am a professional sufferer with anxiety, worry, and I fear not having control. So we're taking back control of our lives together, because when you try to become an entrepreneur, you actually are becoming super successful in something that you love. You're getting great rewards, you're getting freedom, but you also get all of these beautiful elements that go along with it. Imposter syndrome, anxiety, fear of success, fear of failure. These are things that will come when you decide to become an entrepreneur. So when we work through this book with Mel Robbins, and some of you guys have already gone through it once, maybe some of you listened ahead, because it is that good. The premise of this whole Audible book is this. When you listen to her coach different people that struggle with different things, you're going to be able to identify maybe things you struggle with, maybe things you see in your team, even people outside of Plexus. You'll be like, I think they're struggling with fear of success. Like, you'll start to identify these things. And I wish that I would have known about these things early in my journey. So let's do this together. Let's power through these next 6 or 7 weeks and really start to identify what is it that's holding us back, because maybe you don't even know it yet. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of a personal story, and then we're going to talk about anxiety, stress, and fear, and then we're going to go through that very first page, the introduction, getting started, and the workbook. I actually had Staples print the workbook out for me. I think it's 8 cents a page, so it was like $9, but it was so much easier than having to like get the ink and do all the things. So let me tell you the personal story. I joined Plexus 13 months in. I became an Emerald, and I was excited. It was fun. I didn't really feel fear. It was more like, it was okay with me because I felt like it was an accident or I got lucky. It felt like, and I also felt like anytime I wanted to, I could just back out. I could be like, that was fun, but I'm not completely, like, I didn't want to be completely sold out. It just scared me tremendously. And then I became a Diamond, and they started asking me to do events. And that was terrifying. And I thought a couple things. One, did I misrepresent myself? Because I thought maybe they would ask me to do something because I felt like I knew what I was talking about. And I really didn't feel like I knew what I was talking about. So that was scary. I didn't like that. I didn't like feeling like people thought I knew something that I didn't know. And I still struggle with this. So maybe you're working right now building a business, and you're thinking, I don't want people looking up to me because I don't have all the answers. Well, change the way you're saying that. People are going to look up to me even though I don't know all the answers. It's okay. Have I introduced myself, by the way? Let's start over. My name is Jennifer Lee. I'm a Diamond Ambassador with Plexus. I've been with the company for 6 years, and I guess that's it. I live in Tennessee. I have 5 kids. I've been married for 17 years. What else is interesting about me? I like ketchup on green beans. Okay, so let's keep going. So I became a Diamond Ambassador, and I was literally living in a personal hell. And then that's crazy, right? You're like, You hit the top of the company. You're reaching all those dreams that you had for yourself. You struggled so bad financially. It just seems like a dream come true. And it was. But I felt this burden of responsibility for having to know everything. I felt a burden if a level 1 couldn't get to silver, like it was personally my fault, which it's not. There was so much pressure that I put on myself. No one else did it to me. And I lived in this constant state of anxiety. I got to the point where anxiety was so bad that I started wearing, I'm really laying it out there for you guys, and it's being recorded, so that's great. I started wearing noise canceling headphones. Does anybody else in here struggle with anxiety? Anyone? Does anybody in here have like panic attacks or heart racing, or they hear like whistling in their ear, or racing thoughts, or even just like impending doom, like constant? Yes. Okay. A lot of you are relating to this. And so my anxiety started as this little seed of feeling inadequate, ill-equipped, fearful, and it just grew. I let it grow. I fed that anxiety as much as possible to the point where I felt paralyzed, completely paralyzed. My husband's like, I don't even recognize you. I don't know what's happened to you. I ended up hiring a personal coach. And the first meeting, you know when you cry so hard that your snot is clear and you're eating it when you're talking? That was what happened to me. I literally was eating my clear snot as I was talking, because here's what I found out. Number one, the big fear that I didn't know, I wasn't putting into words. Number one fear, I had become the head of my household financially. I was the person that was the breadwinner. And I was living in fear that I had robbed my husband of his role. He had come home from work. What would people think? I live in the South. I was like constantly living in fear of judgment, that they were like, you're not supposed to be traveling and doing all these things and pursuing a successful career. You're just supposed to be home with the kids. Like, I created all of this, and I was living in fear of judgment of that. That was the first breaking free moment for me. It was so liberating to come out of that. I went to my husband. I said, do you feel like I've robbed you of your role? He's like, no, I am so proud to be married to you. You're doing an amazing job. I love supporting you. Then I'm like, you are so hot, one. And two, thank God, because we just never had that conversation. And slowly but surely, working through with this coach, I have just let all of the weight go, let all of the chains that I was dragging behind me on purpose. I literally handcuffed myself with these chains. And some of you are silver, some of you are gold. You have handcuffed yourself with things like, what are people going to think if they say that okay, here's one. You're with health and wellness? Wait, you are? And then they look at you up and down. They're like, you're doing health and wellness. Aren't those weight loss products? Do you ever feel that way? Like someone's looking at your body and they're like, you don't. And I'm guilty of it. I've looked at someone that's with a skincare company and I'm like, I think they have a blemish right there. Aren't they supposed to be with a skincare company? Like, I'm judging them. Or if I see somebody that's supposed to represent clothing and they're not dressed right, we're all guilty of doing this to people, and it has to stop. So some of you guys are struggling with this. I want to help you break free. That was my break free story, and I'm still evolving through that. But I will tell you this. I have never felt happier. I have never been a better recruiter. I've never been a better leader. I feel free. I feel free. And now I can enjoy the blessing of Plexus without worrying about all of the ridiculousness. And we all have it, even from the minute you submit and you say, I'm going to sign up, I'm going to pay my $39.95. You do it, and then suddenly it creeps in. It's like, you're going to fail at this like everything else, or kind of want a hot dog right now, but I'm supposed to be drinking my lean. Whatever it is that you're struggling with, it's a real thing. So let's talk about this. 50 years ago, 50. Don't even go back 100. 50 years ago, you were not inundated 24/7 with news, Facebook feeds. When something happens in the world, you know with it about milliseconds. It literally, you know about it. And it's constant. It's coming at you from all directions. That is why in the last 4 years, anxiety and depression have increased by 50%. It is literally becoming an epidemic. And it's because 50 years ago, you might hear something through the newspaper. It might be a news program. You might hear about it from a neighbor, but it wasn't 24/7. Your phone wasn't dinging with alerts. You didn't get Amber Alerts. You didn't constantly hear all the horrible bad things. Do you know who has the worst anxiety? Millennials. Because the day they were born until today, they have been constantly, all the time, inundated. We can remember a time when we didn't hear all the bad stuff. Like hearing a bad thing was once a week, not once a minute. So they're living in constant anxiety and turmoil, and this is not the brand that you want to create. We have to break free from the chains of anxiety. I wrote down a couple of things. Here's the thing that blew my mind. Anxiety is highest in areas with wealth. Wealthier countries, wealthier areas have more anxiety. You'd think it'd be opposite, people fearing starvation, dehydration. Actually, no. That's just survival. But what we do is we live in this place of fear of silly things. And maybe you might hear, I do this with my kids all the time. Like I might hear a story that's such a fluke, one in a gajillion chance, and I'm convinced it's going to happen to my child. Like, don't walk under that tree wearing that color because this certain bird might come and do this if the weather's right. You know what I'm talking about? It's too much. We are constantly living in the on. We're in on, always on. And it's not good for our bodies. If you're struggling with results with the products, it's because your cortisol is surging through your body and it is being stored. Every bad thing is being stored in your muscle memory. And that is a struggle for your body to overcome. So we got to get into here and really release those things. And then we can start having better results with the products. The other thing I wrote down is this. The 3 topics that people are most anxious about: health. And the worst part is right now we have a huge epidemic of hypochondria because all of these health concerns that are being put in the forefront, you see a mole and you're like, oh my gosh, or you feel like your heart might skip a beat and you're like, oh, it's always worrying. Safety. We live in fear of safety because, again, we hear all of the reports of bad things happening. And then people live in fear of finances. So those 3 anxiety causers are big. Well, what do we talk about in Plexus? A lot. We talk about health and we talk about finances. We can set people free, but not if we're not set free first. Can't offer what you don't have. So that's a commitment that you're going to have to make to work through these anxiety producing topics because we really want to help people. I've been sending welcome emails to every new person on my team, and I say to them, if you respond with your health goals, I'll send you a free sample of the Plexus Lean. Well, everybody that's responding, and it's terrifying in one respect, but it's exciting in another, every single person has responded, I have anxiety, or I have PTSD, or I struggle with depression. Every single person. And what we have is a tool, and what we have is a community that can really make a difference for that person. So it's exciting, but it's also sad. So a couple more things I wrote down. People struggle to remember the very last time that they felt at peace. So living at peace is something that is almost like a vintage thing. Can anyone here say that they truly do live at peace, that they just don't struggle? They're literally in a place that they're happy to be in. They're content. They're not worried. They don't have fear. They don't have anxiety. They don't stay awake at night. Can anyone say that? I would love if someone can say that, and maybe you can just private message me. It might be awkward to admit to that right now. You're like, I'm doing pretty great. Well, no, that's great. I'm so happy. If you can say that, I would love to pick your brain because there's obviously something that you're doing that's really keeping you safe from that type of feeling. So as we work through this book, here's the premise. She's saying when you feel like you're out of control, when you don't have control over something, anxiety becomes super high. So do you remember the story of her when she went out into the water to go swimming? She panicked, totally overreacted, and then she didn't have to do it because people were like, oh, it's going to be okay. And they came around her and she was like, if I panic, I'll get more support and people will come around me and then I can do it because people are there for me. So we've all trained ourselves. So I'm going to open this up here. Someone share with me some pattern that you have when you start to feel fear or anxiety. What is the pattern that you directly go to? So can anyone unmute themselves? Just be brave. Rip the Band-Aid off. We're doing this. When you start to feel fear, what's the immediate reaction that you have? Heidi says she runs.
I clean house.
I want that reaction. So it gets the energy out, like that nervous energy.
I'm trying to figure out how to type on here and I can't figure it out.
I like it when you're sharing out loud. I'm trying to see where you are though.
Hang on. Maybe. There. Well, my picture's
I
not
shut
showing.
down.
I'm over there.
Are you going to start cleaning house because you feel nervous right now?
I mean, swear to goodness, I do that. I just start cleaning rapidly.
I mean, that's an incredible thing to do in a time of stress and fear. That actually, at least feels productive. And someone else says that they run. I read Des says she shuts down, and I can relate to that. Someone share about shutting down. When you shut down in fear, what does that mean?
I distract myself and go into complete avoid at all costs dealing with it, and I'll distract myself and focus on something else so I don't have to deal with it.
Mm-hmm. And this is the ebbs and flows of your business. It's basically you're in and then suddenly you're out for a couple weeks, and then you're in and then you're suddenly out for a couple weeks. Because when fear pops up, maybe someone says, I'm having stomach problems, or the product made me stay up all night. Something is said to you and you're like, you feel like it's your fault. You don't know what to say. And you're like, I can't do this. This is too much. I don't know how to handle it. And so you're out for a little while. But then you see a testimony, your upline reaches out, you go to a Plexus event, and you're like, yeah, I'm back in. We're doing this. And then someone sees you out eating French fries. They're like, are those Plexus French fries? And you're like, I'm out. I can't do this. It's too much. This is too much. It's the fear cycle. So shutting down, would someone share about that? I'm asking because I really relate to that. Shutting down.
I find everything else to do.
So you're like, I would work my business, but I have a priority to my family, so I have to go do this. Like you'll
I like to find recipes, and I like to clean my craft room. Organizing and yeah, I feel like, I don't know, those are things I can control. So.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay, I relate to this. For the time that I was in that dark place, I suddenly decided I love doing laundry. It was the weirdest thing. I actually felt like fulfillment in this. I'm like, I have to wash my family's clothes. And so I would just start to do this as much as humanly possible. And the idea of picking this up, literally I would see this and it would make my chest go, like I didn't want to look at it. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to hear one more thing. It was so stressful. So shut down. I learned at an early age, if I said, I don't feel well, like if something was being expected of me and I'm like, oh, I feel tired, or I have a headache, or I don't feel good. I learned if I said that, it gets you out of it. So I spent a lot of time going, oh, I don't feel well. Oh, I'm tired. I got up too early. I always use the health excuse. What about somebody else? What is it you do? What's your pattern when you hit into fear?
I definitely shut down, and I tend to find anything other than IPA to do. So yeah, I'll go clean. I get real stuck in my head. Lots of I can'ts. I'm not enough. All of that flows from that. And yeah, Netflix with the kids.
Yep.
Even folding laundry, cleaning the bathroom, anything other than having to pick up my phone and do something.
And here's the crazy thing. That was such a great answer, because when you say I can't, whatever it is, I can't get people to stay, I can't get people to silver, what happens is the brain's like, okay, she's telling me she can't do that. Let me make sure that's true. And so it starts to like scan, and it's like, oh, there's Stephanie, you're level 1. She never got to silver. Oh, there's Melissa. She quit the products. So you're like finding evidence about how you really can't. And what's also interesting is we just don't focus on the can. We don't say, like, for example, I might think I can't get a level 1 to silver. Well, it doesn't seem to matter that I have, 2 sapphires, 3 diamonds, and some emeralds under me. I'm like, I can't even get a level 1 to silver. Like, that's all I want to think about. So we just have this bent towards reminding ourselves of just what a hot mess we are. And many of us, we find freedom in that. We're like, well, I can't do it. I'm just messed up. I'm a broken person. I'm just a broken person. And here's another thing. I don't know if you guys are from a spiritual background, but this has been a struggle too. I'll say, I can't do it. It's got to be him. It's all him. It's got to be all him. So I'm kind of waiting for him to do it. And he's like, girl, I gave you 2 feet. I gave you a brain. Get out there. I equipped you. And that was a big realization because I was waiting for it to just drop. Like just looking. And really it's like, get out there. I gave you the body. You're healthy. You're well. Do it. And that's been a big leap for me as well. Okay, so let's look at that first page on the introduction where it says, let's get started. It's page 2 of your workbook. So it says, in the first chapter, you were asked, right now, there's an area of your life that is not working for you. What is it? And what area of your life do you want to change? So let's start with this. What area of your life is not working for you? And the reason you'll know this is you're completely discontent with it. When you think of it, you're like, I can't think about that. What area of your life is not working for you? Somebody unmute and share.
So one of the things that I had a little bit of trouble with listening to the introduction is she talks a lot about the freeze response that we've been talking about, or the flee.
Mhm.
And I tend to fight. She doesn't talk about that a lot. And so I was like, oh God, am I really going to relate to this? And for me, I don't mean like fight. I mean, I tend to compete. So because I feel like, oh God, I can't do this, or what if I can't do this? I pole vault over that. Mm-hmm. And I need to find either somebody to compete with to make me drive rather than just competing within myself. And that has been the biggest thing, because I don't want to compete, especially in one plexus, right? Like we want to collaborate and inspire. So that is like my biggest work, if that makes sense.
Blew my mind. That is such an incredibly astute thing. And I'm thinking of the fight or flight response when you're in that moment of fear. And she doesn't mention that, but a couple things I want to share with you. Number one, comparison is something that is so easy to do. And if you can train yourself to compare yourself against somebody in the sense of, like, here's what I do. When I look at the leaderboard, sometimes you're like, I wonder what they're doing. I wonder if they're buying everybody's welcome packs. Like you just immediately, it's just so hard for you to celebrate people. If you can say, thank you for showing me what's possible, that's so helpful. If you look at them and you go, okay, you showed me it's possible. It's just a way of changing your mindset. I say it. I look at their picture. I go, thank you for showing me what's possible. It's kind of like the Marie Kondo where she's like, thank you, shirt. You look at the person and you say, thank you. That's a tip. The second thing, and this will blow your mind. Every single human being gives off energy. This is not a weird, creepy voodoo thing. It's literally a measurable energy. It's just what we have. We have energy molecules floating through us. So when a person is in a state of joy or contentment, they give off energy that is super fast moving. I'll do it like this instead. And it just goes very far. So if someone walks in the room and they're like, hey, think about Kramer from Seinfeld. It's like, hey, you know those people. You're just drawn to them. Like you feel good after you've been around them. You're like, gosh, I just love it when that person shows up because they just make me feel like $1 million. Well, it's because they have these really fast moving, long spreading energy waves coming off of them. And so joy, contentment, happiness, all of those feelings give off these long, fast moving energy waves. All the way down, work your way down, all the way to death. A dead person gives off these slow moving waves for just a very short amount of space. Ooh, a little bit. Then you have grief, a little bit longer and still slow moving. Then you have depression. You move your way up, and then in the middle between death and joy is anger. So when you are feeling fear of failure, when you're feeling depressed, like you cannot do the business, you're feeling, why is she? And I did the same thing and they said no. You're so in this place of slow moving waves. You will do anything to get out of that. Of course you're going to use anger. You're just trying to pull yourself up from feeling like you're near death. So anger is your jump to feel better. You're like, I'm trying to get closer to joy. So anger is like a normal response to pull yourself up from that weird energy level where you just feel like, ugh, just want to give up. Everything's horrible. It's gray. I'm terrible at this. It's another example of where I totally messed up. You're going to bump yourself to anger. Does that make sense? It's weird, but it's true. Anybody experience that where instead of like freezing or fleeing, they get angry and fight?
I'm definitely, like Jennifer said, I'm in the fight, and I do like mad IPA, but that's not good. The poor people on the other end of that, because I'm running all the scenarios of why they need to do this. It's right, and they just need to realize it's right. But that's not always very helpful.
But again, it's not necessarily anger. It's more competitive.
It can be.
Like,
it can be
right?
huge competitive. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't have the competitive bone, so I was using anger because that's what I do. But you're right; it doesn't have to be like you're mad at people. It's just like you're challenging yourself. But what you're trying to do is pull yourself up to a higher level of energy. When I had postpartum super bad with my first son, I found myself being really confrontational with people, and I wasn't like me, and I couldn't figure out why am I every chance I get wanting to confront someone. It was weird. And until I understood this whole energy conversation, and again, this is something that is totally biological. It's not this weird voodoo stuff. It's actually real. In fact, I would encourage you guys to really research it because it's interesting. And that's why we say you're the mass accumulation of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. This is real. Like the people that you spend time with, you're picking up on that and becoming that. So you got to be really careful about the people you surround yourself with. So let me look at this really quick. Rebecca says, I can so relate to anger. It's more internal, not external, though I do have times of anger and frustration when people just won't get it. Confrontational is definitely another thing that happens. My poor husband. I relate to that so much. There was a girl that was in the bathroom at the airport, and her shirt, it said got SARS. Remember got milk, but it said got SARS. Well, this was a disease or an infection that was in China. At the same time, my parents were there adopting my younger sister. They almost got stuck in country, couldn't leave. Like it was an epidemic. I think it was caused by spitting. This was so long ago. And I decided that it was my job to tell this girl that her shirt was very offensive. This is totally out of my character. It's not how I am at all, but my postpartum made me loco. And I was like, you think that's funny? And I caught myself going to this place of anger. So this is something to really consider. But the freeze and the flee response, this is where people will leave plexus. And have you ever had someone leave and rejoin you later on? Has that ever happened to any of you? Yeah. Or were you one of those people? Did you leave and then rejoin? These are all responses to somebody that has a fear. Their pattern is whatever, withdrawing, feeling comparison, anger. All of these things are just patterns. And that's where we are now. We have to break the pattern. Mel Robbins' 5-4-3-2-1 is a great tool to break the pattern. So now when I start to feel worried, anxious, my normal pattern is go to your room, go get in your room, just get in bed, just go hide. Just give up, hide, start over. But now, as I see myself starting to walk, I go, nope, 5-4-3-2-1, and I'll go outside. I'll do something other than my pattern so that now I'm in control. So that now the anxiety's not in control, I'm in control. So that's what we have to do. So anyone else that wants to share an area of their life that's not working for them right now?
So for me, I think it would be like a time management kind of thing, which might go under priorities, but it's like I feel like I need to get everybody else taken care of at home. Right now I've got my grandbabies and 2 daughters living with us too, which just adds to the mix of things. They're adults, they're great help, but is my hubby taken care of? Are the grandbabies good? So I'm thinking, is everybody else taken care of? And then I can do that. So I feel like I need to put in I know you need to put in the bigger rocks first, then everything will fall in. And I know that works. But I feel like for me, it's a huge priority time management that I just can't seem to lasso this thing and make it mind me. In my head, it sounds good. In my head, I've got it laid out and it works like this. but to instigate it is sometimes a different story.
Do you feel guilty for taking time from your husband or from your kids or your grandkids? Is there guilt?
Maybe a little bit. I don't think it's huge, but a little bit, because I want to be sure that, if mom's time, Mimi's time, wife time, that I've got all your needs met first, and then I can. So maybe a little guilt. And maybe it could be also a little bit of, can I really do this? And I can use that as an excuse for not doing that. Do you know what I mean?
I was trying to find your bucket because there's two things. It's either guilt or it's avoidance. And it's so awesome to have a real, like an actual beautiful excuse to avoid. It's so nice. It's like, of course, I have to take care of my grandchildren. Or even people have said to me, I'm struggling with this health problem, or I just lost my house, or they'll tell me things that are really real, like actual things that people are battling with. But I also know of people that Alita, her husband died. And 2 days later, that girl's back up she's all right, got to keep going. So I've seen people overcome it. And so I know it's possible. And if someone's saying, I really want this, then I feel for us as leaders, all of us as leaders, it is an integrity issue if we don't hold people accountable to what they've said that they want. Now that's hard because this is a volunteer army. I don't feel like I know any more than anybody else does. But if someone says to you, for example, my trainer, I said, I want to lose a certain amount of weight to fit into this blue dress at convention. That was my goal. I wanted to zip it without having to use coconut oil and other assorted measures. And so there were days I didn't want to go. I didn't feel like it. And I would be like, I can't come because I have a meeting. She's like, put on your shoes and get in the car and stop making excuses. And I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy that. I'd get there and think, I don't like you and all of those things, but she has integrity and I respect her for that. So I'm going to hold you accountable and say, when you start to catch yourself avoiding and you want to serve someone else, which is a beautiful quality, here's what I would say to them. Say, hey, I really want to meet your needs and I really want to take care of you. So I'm going to take 1 hour and then I'm going to be all yours. So you do the thing first and then, because you probably really enjoy. Do you get fulfillment serving your family?
Yeah, it's not my love language by far, because gift giving and getting gifts is my love language, but I want them to know that I'm there for them. And I think I would feel guilty if I wasn't being that mom that I thought, that everybody pictures being, moms have to do this, 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 and this. And if you're not doing that, then you're failing at that. And I don't want to fail at both of them, the business and family, but they're all very supportive. Let me say that, completely supportive. My youngest daughter is my sponsor. She's completely supportive. My husband just is excited about it. So it's not that they're not, I think I'm using it as an excuse. It's my excuse. It's not even real to them, probably.
I mean, this is so huge. I hope you guys are listening to this because I'm going to jump into this topic, imposter syndrome. Every one of us has created a blueprint for whatever the perfect mom, the perfect ambassador, the perfect wife, a perfect employee. Everyone has a blueprint. We've created it. So here's what I think a perfect mom should be. No one taught you this really. You just kind of created this. This is like the standard. Well, obviously we're not going to measure up to it, but we're constantly comparing ourselves against this. And in that place of where we don't meet that is called imposter syndrome. Because I'll say to you, I'm a homeschool mom, but the first thing I think is, one of my kids just tested 2 years younger than his grade level. And then I'm like, should I really be doing this? Like I start to panic, but I really am a homeschool mom. And in my mind, I think this is like the standard, but somehow we're going to have to get out there and crowbar this thing away because all you can do is all you can do. Like if you do your best, that's truly all you can do. And the standard should not be there. So you're saying, I feel like this is what a mom should be. So for me, I didn't think a mom should be working outside the home. For me, I wanted to be completely present. My mom worked 60-hour weeks. She slept all weekend because she was exhausted as a nurse supervisor. And in my mind, I was like, that's not the mom I want to be. I want to be this kind of mom. So instead of sleeping all weekend, I just slept all day on the couch because I was exhausted having 800 children and running a household. found out it wasn't as easy as I thought. But my standard was you shouldn't be working, and especially traveling, like going to convention and leaders retreat. Like I felt like I was neglecting my children. And I had to just throw it all out and come to terms with this. When I feel happy, when I feel fulfilled, my children are soaring. But when I feel less than, when I feel overwhelmed, they aren't. And I see it in them. And my sister said to me, Jen, you haven't told them you feel this way, but they know and they feel it. And so whatever it is you're feeling, your family knows. So if you are avoiding it because you want to do whatever it is you feel like the blueprint is for the perfect mom, housewife, whatever it is, go ahead and work on that blueprint, because that is not a real thing. You created it. You conjured it up. Same thing with, I had a friend when she got married. She cried herself to sleep almost every night because she felt like she was a horrible cook. Like she thought her husband was going to get this great new wife, and she couldn't cook. She burnt everything. She shrunk his clothes. All of this. She was mortified. And then finally he's like, I didn't marry you to be perfect. I enjoy your company. I like doing life with you. And she just had to lower that standard and just say, okay, I'm just going to show up and be me and do the very best I can. And that's all anyone can ask of you. So you just identified a huge area of avoidance, and I think you should make some notes about that and really start to think about it. Really.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I'm excited right now. We're going to break through so much. Anyone else? So she said time management. I struggle with that same thing, and it's real. You can create a schedule. You can do all the things, but until you decide to commit to actually doing it, the schedules don't matter. Like anyone addicted to making lists and never actually, I have a lot of lists, just never actually do anything on the lists. Anyone? Yep. Okay. Anyone else have an area of their life that's not working for them?
And I'm sorry, picture is coming up. But my biggest thing is that I don't think my husband's going to be able to cope with my success. He's a person, we've only been married 9 years. He was never married before. He'll be 55, by the way. And, he wants me here all the time. So, it's trying to break him in after 4 years and say, this means the world to me. This is my life. This is my dream. This is what I want to do. But I tend to back off and maybe sit down and watch TV with him when I should be doing IPAs, or that's my greatest fear.
And you don't want to leave your spouse behind. People have a hard time when people change. And if you don't have spousal support, honestly, plexus is nearly impossible. When you don't have the person you do life with supporting this, it's like you're trying to run and that person's pulling you with a rope. So really, really hard conversations have to happen. And that's something that I sat my family down. I'm like, this is what it requires. And this is what it would look like. Are you in? When I talk to my husband about it, even to this day, there are times when he says, it's hard. Sometimes I feel like I'm not doing my share, or sometimes I feel like things are different. But at the end of the day, we're very happy to be in the place that we're in, but having those conversations. So here's what I would ask you. One, are you assuming the best about your spouse? Are you assuming the best? Because it'd be easy to think that he couldn't handle it. Maybe he really could. Second thing is, do a reward system for you, not for him. Well, you can do that if you want to, but that's your business. I would say something like, I'm going to work my business for 30 minutes so that then I can sit down and watch a movie with you for the next 2 hours. I can't wait. I'm super excited. And so they get the buy-in because they're like, she's doing that now just so she could spend time with me. It's way worse when you're like, okay, I'll do all this stuff with him, and then at the end, I'll be able to fit in some work. And of course you're not. You're going to be tired or go to sleep. Then you're building resentment, and all of that's just a hot mess. So
Absolutely.
That's really good. Does anybody else relate to that?
Yes.
Or worried about their spouse feeling like left in the dust if you have success? Okay, I'm not seeing hands on that one. That's interesting. Anyone else that wants to share an area of your life that is not working for you?
Can I pipe in? Is that okay? I think I'm just kind of jumping in on all this.
Pipe in, girlfriend. Hi, Michelle.
Hi. My question is, as I'm listening to this, what I'm relating to is my pattern for who knows how long, I don't really know, seems like a long time, is that I just hit it hard in one area. Like I'll run really hard with plexus, and then I turn around and I'm like, oh my goodness, my house is falling apart, and then I run real hard and deal with my house, and then I'm like, oh my goodness, we're getting behind in school, so then I hit real hard. And basically what because I've really been praying about this, because I'm committed, and my husband is totally on board. We're given 4 to 5 hours a day for my work, which I'm excited, bringing discipline in this area with scheduling. But the underlining thing that I do to myself that I'm finding difficulty is whenever I see that I'm starting to fail in an area, I feel like, oh, sorry, that's my little one. I feel like I have to ground. This is my mentality. I have to ground myself. Everything else has to stop. I can no longer do anything for myself. I'm in trouble, basically. I put myself in trouble. I ground myself and say, okay, you have to do this until it's done. You can do nothing else. Like a child, your room's not clean, so you're grounded until your room's clean. So I don't know what the underlining thing is, like why, but yeah, that's where this is what's coming up to me, like kind of how I relate to this, what you're saying.
Okay. So I'm going to say this, Michelle. Stop shooting yourself.
Yeah.
You're shooting all over yourself. I should have my house like this. I should be working. The kids should be doing this. Should. That's that whole blueprint that we were just talking about. And this is like the hardest thing ever. Because of course you want someone to come to your door and you don't want to feel like they're going to report you for being a hoarder. And you don't want someone to turn you in for not teaching your kids. And you don't want someone to say you're still senior gold after 4 years. Like there's all these areas that create an illicit fear. But when you should yourself, it is a paralyzer. So my house isn't always clean. My kids do school, but they're not at Albert Einstein. And I don't win all the $5,000 checks. And these are choices that I consciously made in my business. And so you need to figure out where it is that you feel okay and then decide to be okay in that. Because you have or do you know your Enneagram type?
I'm an 8. Whatever. I'm the 8, and then the fun one. Is that 6 or 7?
Yeah.
Okay.
You and I are the same. I didn't know that. And it could be as a challenger that you could be challenging yourself. So that's something for you guys. An area of her life that she's not loving right now is feeling like if she gives it all to one area, the other has to sacrifice. And that's just not true. That's just not true at all. Like we have to find a way to have not balance, because that's not going to work, but harmony, where you feel at peace with the way things are. So balance doesn't exist. It just doesn't. If you guys live balance, it means you're giving the same amount to everything. Everything is in its right, I don't know the word I'm looking for. Percentages. Everything has to be right. It's just like having 5 kids. I do not get to spend a balanced amount of time with each one of them each day, but I find harmony. So maybe one day I go out with one kid alone, and then a couple weeks later it's another kid. So it's not balance, it's harmony. And harmony creates peace, and that's what we're looking for. Because if you can have peace in your heart, then you can have money in your bank. It has to go in that order. You can't do it opposite. So peace in your heart, money in your bank. Stop shooting yourself. I don't know why I find so much joy in saying that. Okay, so that's something you guys would have answered on that line. What area of your life do you want to change? Mine is my weight. I want to be stronger. I want to feel better. I don't want to sweat just because I woke up. Like I want to feel good. And I'm also going to tell you this. I started drinking 2 actives a day since I got home from convention, and I've lost 6 pounds. 2 actives. 2 actives. I am so in love with that product, it's not even funny. Okay, so next question. When you think about taking control of that area of your life, what is your biggest fear? Okay, so someone told me about the area with their husband. Someone told me about time management or avoidance. Someone told me about wanting to live balanced in all areas. What are your fears in conquering that? So someone else share with me what that area was and now their fear that it creates in them.
Okay, mine was connecting with other people. So I have a hard time, I guess, trusting or getting close to other people. So it's hard to build those relationships. And so I guess my fear is getting hurt or being judged. So I'm really struggling with that because, I mean, this whole business is relationship building, and that's the hard part for me that I'm struggling with.
Where does that come from? Like, can you think back your earliest memory of feeling like?
Oh yeah, there's lots of drama back there. You know, I mean, I'm adopted first of all, but it wasn't told to me in the, I won't say the right way, but it was like, I always felt for some reason that my brother was treated differently than I was, you know, so it goes way back. And I felt like I was abandoned. I felt like I never belonged. And so but then even as I grew, it was like I was never good enough, you know, to fit in. So I was never one of those ones that raised my hand in school because I had to be perfect, you know, and I was afraid to answer. Or even as I went through my my career, and I would take leadership positions and stuff, but I had to distance myself from people, and just like there'd be no emotion. It would be, you know, I would do all the things, but I wouldn't get really close to any one person or one group of people. So it's I have a lot of people on my team, and you know, they look up to me and everything, and I love them dearly. And it's just, but if you ask me any details about their lives, I wouldn't be able to tell you. But I can't seem to make that close connection.
I love you for being so honest, because that's a big deal to be able to say. It's hard to connect to people. Here's my question for you. What would happen if someone did judge you? Or what would happen if someone did reject you or hurt you? Like, what exactly would happen?
Well, that's happened multiple times. I guess I just have a wall up so that I don't feel it as much, and I just kind of just move on, and I don't deal with it. You know, I just it's like, oh well, you know, they must not be my friend or whatever, and too bad, you know, so sad, and kind of just move on. But I want to feel. I just can't get those emotions up.
So basically, it sounds like you're making a choice between living with the wall or living with actually feeling it. So I would say, what's the payoff? Which one can you live with? Always living with the wall, or being risky and letting yourself potentially get hurt? Like, which one can you live with? And you get to decide that. The thing about putting up the wall is this: you may not be dealing with it up here, but your whole body knows. Mm-hmm. Every bit of anything you go through is stored in your body. That's why people that end up with really bad illnesses, they say, are you living through stress? And they're like, usually yes. And it's because they're not dealing with it. It has to come out. It can't stay in, kind of situation. And you have really real trauma growing up. You have really real reasons why you feel the way that you do. And you're the only one that can pull yourself out of it. That is such a hard place to be. But the payoff could be this: a strength that you didn't even know that you had. And here's the best part. One day, somehow, someone's going to cross your path, and you're going to go, that's me. That girl does what I used to do. And you're going to get to pour into her. And that's when you'll know that you arrived, because now you are championing for someone else. Oh, Buttercup. Jonathan, the dog, and the UPS man are having us. Sorry, guys.
I was a letter carrier, so yeah, I get that.
I don't think my dog would bite, but his bark is terrifying. Plus, I don't really like animals. But don't be mad at me for that. I treat it kindly. Apparently kids need animals to be happy to grow up. I don't know. So I got a dog. And she's kind of cute. Anyhow, so that's something that you are having fear with. Like, I know that I'm not happy that I'm not making deep connection, but the fear is, if I do, what if I'm judged? Well, guess what? You will be, for sure. Like, I can guarantee it. You'll be judged for not doing plexus. You'll be judged for doing plexus. You'll be judged for your garbage can being too far out in front of your house. You're going to be judged because your car isn't whatever. You're going to be judged. It's just it's the name of the game. I was sitting at the dermatologist taking my daughter in, and I was sitting kind of like leaned back a little bit like this. And I looked down and I saw where like this little part of my stomach was kind of pooping over my my jeans. And across from me was this young 20-ish-year-old girl, beautiful. She was leaned back, nothing poking over her jeans, like with her leg crossed, and her legs were all tan, and her leg was up, no cellulite, none whatsoever. She's on her phone. I think she's wearing like a long t-shirt and like short athletic shorts. And I'm looking at her thinking, I have more confidence in my body right now than I ever have. And I bet you she struggles with insecurity, because that's what we do, right? And I was like, I would take this fat roll any day over that insecurity. So I was sitting there and I was just like, hey, that's kind of how I felt. So if you can go ahead and accept insecurity and judgment and say, yeah, that's going to happen. It's called awareness and mindfulness. Same thing with you feeling like you're not good enough. When Rebecca was saying, I can't. When you say, I can't do it, I can't get someone to silver, immediately stop and go, that was weird. I actually can. Thanks for trying to help me out, brain, but I got this. I can do this. Thank you. Your brain's just trying to protect you. And so a friend of mine shared this story with me. He said that his 2-year-old, he had bought this brand new mower, huge mower. We only have 9 minutes, so I'll tell the story and then we'll wrap up. Huge mower, loud as all get out. And he jumps on it in the front yard and he looks back and she is bawling her eyes out on the front porch, screaming. So he stops the mower and walks back up to her and he's like, what's going on? She's like, don't do it, Daddy. You get hurt. Don't do it. Like, she's terrified of this mower, even though he knows it's safe. We know it's safe. She didn't. That's the same thing as your brain. When you go get on a big, scary mower, whatever that may be, getting closer to people, going ahead and saying, I'm going to work 2 hours each day, that you're used to doing something else for your family, whatever the big, scary mower is, your brain is going to wig out. And that's okay. You want it to. It's why you don't walk out into traffic. But then you say to your brain, I know this scares you, but I'm going to be okay. Like, even if whatever, like when I first went on stage to speak, my brain was wigging. I'm like, what if you trip? Like, what if your bra strap shows? Like, what, all these things. What if you have something in your teeth? Like something. What if something happens? And then you have to say, I'll be okay. Even if that does happen, I'm going to be okay. So we have to train our brains to believe we're okay, because you guys are all doing something that a very small percentage of the world does. And that is trying to become an entrepreneur, trying to become self-employed, trying to have success. Most people will not do this, not because they can't, but because they won't. And that's okay. Save it for us. Let us go out there and do the scary things. And hopefully in the process, we are shooting our arrows out. When you shoot your arrows out, that means you are serving people and changing lives. Not arrows in, help me win my trip. Hey, I only need 2 more people to get something for me. Like, no more arrows in, arrows out. And then the reward is you will experience a success that you can't even imagine. So we're going to have so much fun every Friday. I appreciate all of you guys for showing up. So here's the deal. This next chapter, well, actually the next 2, for the next 2 weeks, they're long. They're really long, but they're so powerful. So if I were you, I would do maybe 15 minutes of listening each day. If you don't make it through all of the papers, let me look at this. I know the first one's pretty long, so it's like 8 pages long. Do your best, because in an hour, we won't be able to get through all of this. This is meant to help grow you. So go as far as you can go, and when we meet next week, we'll cover all this. But here's your challenge for this weekend. Because of fear, because of wanting to take control of your life, if your last name starts with A through L, you're going to go live sometime between now and the end of the weekend, and you are going to share your regimen. If you want to know what that means, go watch my Facebook Live on my personal page. You're going to share with your audience, hey, everybody, so many people have been asking me, what is it you take? Why do you take it? And just be you. You don't have to be all crazy, knowing all the ingredients. It doesn't matter. Just be you. Don't try to be anyone else. Don't should yourself. Just literally be like, and this is the probiotic I take at night, and this is what it does for me, and it's really good, and blah, blah, blah. Watch the video. So A through L, you're going to go live, 5 minutes, share your regimen. If your last name's M through Z, you're going to go live and share your story. Don't freak out about compliance. If there's a problem, they'll message you, and then just delete the video, but it has still been seen like 500 times. So anyways, go live and share your story. I mean, don't say anything like it's healed me and whatever. Like it raised me from the dead. Don't say that. Just share your story. So A through L, share your regimen. M through Z, share your story. Sometime between now and the end of Sunday, take control of your business because it's yours. Nobody can do it for you. And this will be a great place to start conversations with people. All right. Isn't this fun? Are we having a good time? All right, good. Thanks, guys. And I'll post this recording.